Meet the unspeakable Milo Binder. His new self-titled album, produced by the indefatigable Willie Aaron of the Balancing Act, The Holy Brothers, and The Third Mind, is available right now. If you like John Prine, Jonathan Richman, and Tom T. Hall more than Ed Sheeran, then this one's definitely for you. The Unspeakable Milo Binder, available on Heyday Again Records at realgonemusic.com. Future Prophet Records is at it again, filling the charts with all the greatest hits from another dimension, a dimension where great music rules the airwaves like it used to in this one. Swear Tapes presents Crooked Teeth, available right now on Future Prophet Records. That's Future, Prophet Records.com. Order now. Marty took LSD and we went outside, and a guy comes up and takes a knife out and goes, "Hey man, give me your money." Marty looks at me and goes, "Is this part of the trip?" Marty says, "Thompson's all nervous and I'm just as loose as a goose." I'm looking at this guy and he's sparkling. I'm going, "Man, you are beautiful." And then I put my arm around the guy. Finally, the guy gave up and said to Thompson, "Hey man, you better take this guy to a hospital." Welcome to Discograffiti, the deep dive podcast for music obsessives that gives maniacs like you and me the chance to connect with a brotherhood obsessed with rating the entire discography of every single artist and band that ever mattered. I'm your host, Dave Gebrow, and when I was a kid, I thought I loved music. But no, that was only the beginning. I almost lost my life, and in the process, it made music a top priority in a way I'd thought was completely unimaginable. I quit my job, went all in on Discograffiti, and never looked back. And so, with 3 new episodes each week, you're going to gain a comprehensive knowledge of an act's history and output in the time it takes to listen to one album. Each new guest swings a hard left into an area you either had no idea you needed to know about, or know all about and can't believe you're not alone out there. And in this episode, we'll be turning our spray cans on Jefferson Airplane. This episode is part of a series called Feed Your Head, the Great Jefferson Airplane Deep Dive, which I've consciously crafted to act as the ultimate repository of fact and opinion on one of the greatest bands ever to walk the face of the earth, the almighty Jefferson Airplane. It includes a whopping 30 episodes, featuring interviews with Jack Cassidy, Jorma Kaukonen, David Freiberg, and China Kantner, and it spans decades, as one could never hope to attain a comprehensive understanding of the airplane without at least a cursory overview of its starship mutations. By dissecting every fuzz tone, every dosed performance, and every internal friction, we aren't just charting a band, We're attempting to quite foolishly, and may I add quite dangerously, bottle the lightning of a bygone era. An era that, let's face it, was not just a period of time. The 1960s was a rip in the fabric of the ordinary, a brief, beautiful accident where the youth somehow found the master key to the reality machine. And for a few years, music wasn't just entertainment. It was a weaponized threat to the status quo. This, then, will be more than just a chronological trek through a staggering discography, and that's because I couldn't help but bite the bait that dangles so temptingly from the airplane line, in a foolhardy attempt to gain some clarity around what in God's name the 1960s was all about. Specifically, how did the era come to be in the first place, and how could its lofty but valiant ideals just fade away entirely right around the same time the original Airplane disbanded? Part 3 of the series covers the very early years of the band in the style of an audiobook documentary, as the Airplane's original visionary, Marty Balin, seeks out the best of the best and winds up pulling together a band that will soon change the course of music history. Here are just a few of the many things discussed in this episode of Discograffiti. Marty Balin's early music dalliances, Piecing together his dream band one member at a time, the unbelievable first original that they performed, Marty's genius plan to foist his band on San Francisco with a true splash, Jorma Kaukonen and Jack Cassidy, the origin story of a 70-year musical love affair, the incredibly rare first recording by Jack and Jorma, how Jorma was ultimately seduced into the airplane, the true origin of the band's name, the bargaining chip used by their first manager Matthew Cates to convince the group that he was their man, and their public debut as a band. So here we go. This is your captain speaking. Buckle in because we're ready for takeoff. And away we go then! The year, 1965. LSD is still legal, and 6 freaks from San Francisco just decided to weaponize it with guitars. Jefferson Airplane didn't just soundtrack the 60s, they piloted it. Straight through the hate, into the heart of chaos, and back out again, trailing feedback, revolution, and rampant, unchecked ego. This is not a podcast series, then. It's a flight log mapping the front lines of America's cultural revolution. And this time, Discograffiti is going to be doing something a little bit different. This series takes a broader view. It maps the entire countercultural storm system that spawned the airplane, from the politics and the protests to the performances and the paranoia, everything that made the ground beneath them shake. Because you can't tell their story without telling the story of America losing its mind and calling it freedom. This is the longest, deepest, and most unflinchingly granular dive in Discograffiti history. Every note dissected, every feud, freakout, and feedback squall decoded. Every ounce of Grace, Marty, Paul, Jorma, Jack, Spencer, Signe, Skip, Joey, John, and the rest. Under the microscope, from birth to death and back again. Before the airplane and after. Featuring a lengthy Jefferson Starship, Hot Tuna, and Starship epilogue, long enough to be a standalone series on its own. Plus interviews with Jack Cassidy, Jorma Kaukonen, David Freiberg, and China Kantner, who fly in and out with answers to some of the larger questions that still litter the landscape. This is the sound of a nation coming apart, and a rock band trying their damnedest to navigate through the wreckage at altitudes clearly too high to fly. Feed Your Head, the Great Jefferson Airplane Deep Dive. Only on Discograffiti. Buckle in. I'm Dave Gebro, and I could not be any more excited to start off this series. This one's going to be very different. It's going to be very long, and I'm going to be training the microscope as far down as I ever have on this show before. Let's kick things off with what Jefferson Airplane means to me. Jefferson Airplane has always been one of my all-time favorite bands. I've always had a really soft spot for them. In addition, the story they tell, from 1965's Jefferson Airplane Takes Off all the way to 2020's Jefferson Starship LP, Mother of the Sun, the story that's told here is one of lofty ideals and corporate nihilism, from almost literally putting a new music city on the map to we built this city on rock and roll. From grass to crass, from LSD to MTV, arguably no other tale in music history so aptly demonstrates the extensive distances adults are capable of putting between themselves and the younger idealistic versions of themselves, especially when as you age, the various things you can get out of life start to become more important than your beliefs. Now let's introduce the characters in today's episode. The October 1966 to February 1970 lineup of Jefferson Airplane is considered the classic lineup. Although, of course, others come and go through the decades, as we'll come to see. However, for concision's sake, let's just say that the classic lineup consists of Marty Balin on vocals, Paul Kantner on guitar and vocals, Grace Slick on vocals and keyboards, Jorma Kaukonen on lead guitar and vocals, Jack Cassidy on bass, and Spencer Dryden on drums. This was the band that was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 1996. The full cornucopia of research resources that I utilized to assemble this series was Jorma Kaukonen's autobiography, Been So Long, Grace Slick's autobiography, Somebody to Love, ? Hot Tuna, Pieces of a Broken Glass by Philippe Boas with Richie Unterberger, and Got a Revolution by Jeff Tamarkin, which is a Jefferson Airplane bio that kind of wraps up everything, including more modern-day material by Hot Tuna, Jefferson Starship, and Starship. Okay, the musical style. In case you don't know, for some strange reason, Jefferson Airplane was a rock band that formed in San Francisco, California in 1965. One of the pioneering bands of psychedelic rock, the group basically defined the San Francisco sound and was the first from the Bay Area to achieve international commercial success. They headlined the first Isle of Wight Festival in England in 1968, the Monterey Pop Festival in 67, Woodstock in 69, and Altamont in 69. Their 1967 breakout album, Surrealistic Pillow, was one of the most significant recordings of the Summer of Love. Two songs from that album, Somebody to Love and White Rabbit, are among Rolling Stone's 500 greatest songs of all time. Marty Balin founded the band and left it in 1971. After 1972, Jefferson Airplane basically split in two. Kaukonen and Cassidy moved on full-time to their own band, Hot Tuna. Slick, Kantner, and the remaining members of Jefferson Airplane recruited new members and regrouped as Jefferson Starship in 1974, with Balin eventually joining them at points. Jefferson Airplane received the Grammy Lifetime Achievement Award in 2016. All right, the run-up. I'm warning you, this is not much of an economical run-up, but here's the story that defined the Jefferson Airplane, and let's start at the very beginning, which is Marty Balin. All right, that about does it. For over 4 years now, Discograffiti's Friday episodes have been completely free, and it's been my pleasure. But for a variety of reasons, Discograffiti's now moved to the subscription-based Patreon as our primary platform. Moving forward, our public stream will feature a teaser of the Friday episode and a Tuesday teaser of the bonus episode, and that's all. But here's the good news. Only $5 a month will get you the weekly Friday podcast to which you become accustomed. That's it. It's a no-brainer at just $1 an episode. And just that little bit will be what's required to help the show survive. To sweeten the pot, you'll also get regular installments of the Discograffiti Soldiers of Sound podcast. That's Rudy Fishman's podcast within a podcast featuring our Patreon members as guests. You'll also get access to over 100 back episodes of that show. The $10 Lieutenant tier gets you all that, plus access to half of the Patreon archive. That's hundreds of additional episodes, plus copies of my personal show notes, which include invaluable research, star ratings, and reviews. But the $20 major tier is the place to be, unless you can support the show on even higher tiers, which, if you can afford it, offers substantial perks, including advertising on the show and selecting the guests and artists I cover. With the major tier and above, you get it all. The Monday bonus episodes, aka the best stuff, the Friday show, the Soldiers of Sound podcast, plus access to the entire archive. That's many hundreds of Patreon episodes, an absolutely endless barrage of music entertainment, including 50 episodes of The Private Press with Paul Major, Rock Cousteau, Queasy Listening, and so much more. So support the podcast that's been supporting you for years. Discograffiti's calling, and it needs you, so don't risk feeling guilty by not giving. But enough of me yapping. Go on, subscribe now. Visit patreon.com/discograffiti and find the tier that's right for you. Stay tuned, because next week brings upon us the 4th installment of Feed Your Head, the Great Jefferson Airplane Deep Dive, in which the band hurtles at great velocity down the road to releasing their debut record, Jefferson Airplane Takes Off. It's their first flush of success. Okay, here's the week up ahead. This Sunday, our weekly show within a show, the Discograffiti Soldiers of Sound podcast, drops for our Patreon's private tier. These are real people with talent and a burning fire deep inside, just like you and I. Then, come Monday, the major tier gets a very special treat. Monday's bonus episode is part 15 of our love series, which covers the Dear You, aka Love Lost, and Vindicator era, during which Arthur Lee's life truly began to spin wildly out of control. Let's just say that you know things have gotten bad when you call the cops on yourself. There will be a very short sneak peek running publicly for free on Tuesday morning, but the entirety of the show will only be accessible on the major tier of our Patreon. A heartfelt Discograffiti thanks goes out to my beautiful son, Mason, Jack Cassidy, Rudy Fishman, Becky Boyd, my mom, my dad, my incredibly loyal fans, and especially the entire Patreon community, the Soldiers of Sound. I love every last one of you, and this show would not exist without you, my friends. Speaking of friends, it's high time for some new ones. They're in our Facebook group, Discograffiti Soldiers of Sound. That's the best way to find out what's coming up on the show, but there's a hell of a lot more. You get recaps of the day in music history, the ability to pitch questions to guests, polls that put you in the driver's seat on guest and band decisions, and access to a thriving creative hub if you're looking for a collaborator. So make sure you don't miss out. You can find the link to the Discograffiti Soldiers of Sound Facebook page right there in the show notes. And if you don't mess with the Zuck, no sweat. Just email me at info@discograffiti.com and I'll keep you in the loop. So now that it's done and you want more, another way to dive even deeper into the amniotically dark and cozy psychedelic underworld of the 60s and 70s is to leap headfirst into our Spirit series. That's episodes 241 to 249, the Lenny Waronker interview, that's 244 and 245, our ongoing Graham Nash interview in which he talks about everything he's ever done, our 13-episode Moby Grape series featuring interviews with Peter Lewis, Don Stevenson, and Bob Mosley. That's episodes 208 to 214. The Beatles' Pete Best. That's episode 188. Our free design interview with all the Dedrick siblings. That's 160 to 162. Our Mamas and Papas series featuring my 16-hour Michelle Phillips interview, which she says is the best interview she's ever done. That's episodes 141 to 159. My 13-hour interview with Terry Kirkman and Jules Alexander about everything the association ever did. That's 109 to 113. My interview with Vashti Bunyan about her life and everything she's ever recorded, that's 103 to 104. My interview with Os Mutants Sergio Diaz, that's 86 and 87. Lou Barlow on the Zombies, that's 59 and 60. Foxygen's Jonathan Rado on Todd Rundgren, that's 37 and 40. Anthony Fantano on the Velvet Underground, that's 32 and 33. Bob Forrest on the band, that's 25 and 27. Andrew Sandoval on the Monkees, that's 22 and 23. Don Randy on David Axelrod, that's episode 17. And Pink Floyd is 1 and 2. And of course, be sure to mark your calendars, because next Friday, May 22nd, we're coming at you with Feed Your Head Part 4. It's The Road to Jefferson Airplane takes off. Trust me, you're not going to want to miss it. And so, from now till then, don't let our youth go to waste, lads and ladies. It's Discograffiti!